A good woman doesn't need therapy, she just needs to pray harder and cook another casserole for someone else in crisis. That's what my Aunt Diane told me as I sat sobbing in her kitchen, having just confessed that I'd been having panic attacks so severe I'd started pulling off highways, convinced I was dying. The terrifying part wasn't her dismissal of my mental health. It was how naturally I nodded, wiped my tears, and asked whose family needed a meal that week. Because even while drowning, I'd been trained to look for someone else to save. The blueprint for my disappearance was drawn long before I was born, passed down through generations of women like a poisoned heirloom. My grandmother, Rose, who raised 7 children while working nights at the factory, never once bought herself a new dress that wasn't on clearance. My mother, Patricia, who gave up her nursing school scholarship when my father decided he didn't want a wife who might earn more than him. My aunts, who competed in an Olympics of self-sacrifice, who could give more, need less, shrink the smallest behind their husbands' ambitions. Pretty is as pretty does, Grandmother Rose would say as she watched me play. But pretty, I learned, meant anticipating everyone's needs before they voiced them. Pretty meant smiling when exhausted. Pretty meant never saying no, never asking for help, never admitting that serving others had become a weight crushing my spine. By 30, I had perfected the art of invisibility. I was the daughter who never caused problems, the wife who never complained, the employee who never said no to overtime, the friend who always showed up, to move furniture, babysit kids, lend money. I listened to everyone's problems at 2 a.m. while mine remained unspoken. I was everyone's rock, everyone's comfort, everyone's solution. I was everything to everyone, except myself. The panic attacks started subtly. A flutter in my chest during PTA meetings where I'd volunteered for 3 committees despite working full-time. Shortness of breath while cooking dinner after a 12-hour shift because my husband, Brian, had a long day. Dizziness while shopping for groceries, with my sister Mallory's list added to mine because she was overwhelmed by her part-time job. "You're just tired," my mother said when I mentioned it. "Remember what Grandma Rose used to say? A woman's work is her worship. You're blessed to be needed." Blessed. That's what we called our exhaustion. Blessed to have families to serve. Blessed to have homes to clean. Blessed to have needs, everyone's but our own, to meet. The breaking point came at Thanksgiving. I'd been up since 4 a.m. cooking for 23 people. My sisters and cousins arrived empty-handed but full of requests. "Could you make Brian's mother's stuffing too? Do you have any vegan options for Beth's new boyfriend? Why isn't there more variety in the desserts?" I stood in my kitchen, hands shaking from exhaustion and low blood sugar. I'd forgotten to eat, watching my female relatives sit in the living room while their husbands watched football. Not one offered to help. When I asked my teenage niece to set the table, my sister laughed. "Oh, let her relax. You're so good at this stuff, Claire. You make it look easy." Easy. I excused myself to the bathroom and sat on the closed toilet, trying to breathe through what I now know was a panic attack. My chest felt crushed. My vision tunneled. After 5 minutes, I splashed cold water on my face and went back to the kitchen, because that's what good women do. "Where were you?" Brian asked, irritated. "My mom's asking about the gravy." That night, after everyone left with plates of leftovers I had packaged, after I cleaned the entire kitchen alone while Brian decompressed with video games, I lay in bed unable to breathe. The ceiling felt like it was collapsing onto me. My heart raced like I was running a marathon while lying perfectly still. "You're being dramatic," Brian muttered when I woke him. "Just take deep breaths." But I couldn't. I ended up in the ER at 3 a.m., convinced I was having a heart attack. The test came back normal. "Anxiety," the doctor said. "Are you under stress?" I almost laughed. Stress. I almost laughed. I thought about the 17-hour day I'd just worked. The house I maintained alone. The extended family I mothered, despite having no children of my own. The career I squeezed into the margins of everyone else's needs. The friends who called me their therapist but never once asked how I was doing. "No more than usual," I said. Because good women don't complain to strangers. The doctor prescribed medication I never filled. Good women don't need pills. Aunt Diane always said they need purpose, but my purpose was killing me. The second breakdown came 3 months later at my cousin's baby shower, the one I planned, paid for, and hosted, despite her not speaking to me for 6 months because I'd missed her gender reveal due to work. I was serving cake when the room tilted. The knife clattered from my hand. Someone screamed, Maybe me. The next thing I knew, I was on my own kitchen floor, my mother fanning me with a paper plate while my aunts clucked about low blood sugar and suggested I might be pregnant. She just needs to eat more, Aunt Diane diagnosed. Too focused on keeping her figure. Men don't like skinny women, Claire. I wasn't skinny. I wasn't pregnant. I was disappearing, one obligation at a time. I need help, I whispered. We're all here to help. My mother beamed, misunderstanding instantly. What do you need done? I can send your father to fix that leaky faucet. No, I said. I mean professional help. Therapy. The silence was deafening. 20 women in my living room and you could hear the air conditioner hum. My first therapy session felt like a confession. When do you rest? Dr. Martinez asked. When do you do nothing productive? When do you exist without serving a purpose for someone else? I couldn't answer. I couldn't remember. Let's try something, she said. Tell me one thing you want, not what others need from you. What do you want? I sat there for 10 minutes, silent. The question felt like being asked to speak a language I'd never been taught. Want? Good women don't want. They give. I started then stopped. Started again. I want to read a book without guilt. To take a bath without someone knocking. To say no without explaining. To eat a meal while it's still hot. To be sick without apologizing. To be tired without being called lazy. To have feelings without being called dramatic. To exist without being useful. I sobbed through the entire list, each want feeling like a betrayal of everything I'd been trained to be. Dr. Martinez handed me tissues. Claire, those aren't wants. Those are basic human rights. The word hit me like a slap. Rights. Not privileges you earn through self-erasure. Rights. Your family trained you to be a martyr, she said gently. But martyrs die, Claire. Is that what you want? They'll hate me, I whispered. They already hate the real you, she said. They love the servant you've been pretending to be. Is that love worth dying for? It took 6 months of therapy before I could say my first no without justifying it. It was to my mother who had volunteered me to cater my uncle's retirement party. No, I said, my hands shaking. What do you mean no? Are you busy that day? No means no, Mom. I'm not doing it. But everyone's expecting. Then everyone can adjust their expectations. She hung up on me. Didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. When she finally called, it was to tell me I was selfish, ungrateful, and clearly influenced by those feminist therapy ideas. I'm influenced by wanting to live past 40, I replied. The family pushback was swift and merciless. I was called selfish. Difficult. What happened to our sweet Claire? They lamented at gatherings. I stopped attending. Brian, forced to cook his own meals and wash his own clothes, accused me of having a midlife crisis. You're right, I told him. I'm having a crisis. The crisis is that I've spent my entire life as an unpaid servant. And I'm done. He moved out 2 months later, telling everyone I'd gone crazy. My family agreed. Good women don't leave marriages just because they're unhappy. Good women work harder. Pray more. Sacrifice deeper. But I wasn't a good woman anymore. I was a living one. The panic attacks didn't disappear overnight. Unlearning 30 years of conditioning takes time. But they lessened, slowly, steadily, as I learned to treat my own needs as valid. As I stopped answering non-emergency calls after 8 p.m. As I resigned from committees that drained me. As I blocked relatives who only contacted me when they needed something. You've changed, Mal Erie accused when I refused to babysit her kids for the 5th weekend in a row. Thank God, I replied. The loneliness was real. When you stop being useful, you quickly learn who loves you versus who loves what you do for them. My phone stopped ringing. My doorbell stopped chiming. My calendar, once crammed with everyone else's emergencies, stretched empty and terrifying. But in that emptiness I found something I had never had before. Space. Space to read books I chose. Space to eat meals at my own pace. Space to feel feelings without immediately swallowing them down to care for someone else. Space to discover who Claire actually was when she wasn't performing goodness. I started pottery classes. Messy, impractical, serving no one but me. I joined a hiking group where the only expectation was showing up with water and decent shoes. I painted my bedroom a color Brian had called aggressive, deep teal, like the ocean I'd never seen because vacations were unnecessary for good women. 6 months into my rebellion, my mother called. "I'm worried about you," she said. "You're alone so much." "I'm not alone," I told her. "I'm with myself." Finally. She didn't understand. None of them did. How could they? They were still trapped in the matrix.